This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. It's Tuesday, July 29th, 2025. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
At least 5 are dead, including an off-duty police officer and the gunman after a shooting in New York City last night. I'm John Stolnis.
Multiple people are recovering from injuries after they were shot outside of a casino. I'm Mike Hempen.
At least 3 dead and a motive under investigation in a shooting outside a Nevada casino. I'm Clayton Neville.
Arkansas State Police identified Clinton Brink and his wife Kristen as the couple who were found dead Saturday on a trail at Devil's Den State Park. I'm Jennifer King.
2 funeral homes allegedly gave grieving parents their deceased son's brain in a box. I'm Haya Panjwani.
Cleveland Guardians closer Emmanuel Clase has been placed on non-disciplinary paid leave. I'm Geffen Coolbaugh.
All ahead on America in the Morning. A shooting at a Midtown Manhattan office building has left at least 5 people dead. Correspondent John Stolnis reports officials are now looking into the motive behind the attack.
5 innocent people shot tonight. We lost 4 souls to another senseless act of gun violence.
Mayor Eric Adams making the sober announcement following the shooting. One of those killed, 36-year-old NYPD officer Didarul Islam. New York Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch identified who they believe to be the shooter.
Shane Tamura, a 27-year-old male with a Las Vegas address.
Surveillance video shows a man getting out of a double-parked BMW with an M4 rifle walking toward the building. Witnesses say he shot Officer Islam as he entered the building, shot a woman as she tried to take cover, then began spraying the lobby with bullets before killing himself. Many of the city's top financial firms, as well as the NFL's headquarters, are housed there. I'm John Stolnis.
In a separate incident, at least 3 people have died in a shooting outside a casino in Reno, Nevada. Correspondent Mike Hempen reports there is no known connection between the alleged gunman and the victims.
Multiple people are recovering from injuries after they were shot outside of a casino. Authorities say a man is in custody and hospitalized following a police-involved shooting outside the Grand Sierra Resort in Reno, Nevada. Multiple people were injured, but investigators haven't said how many or what their conditions are. I'm Mike Hempen.
A federal judge is blocking the Trump administration's efforts to defund Planned Parenthood. Correspondent Clayton Neville has details.
The ruling says Planned Parenthood clinics nationwide must continue to be reimbursed for Medicaid funding. The group says that if the funding is cut, it would be forced to cut back birth control, abortions, and other services and hours at some of its clinics. The cutbacks are part of President Trump's massive spending bill that was signed earlier this month. It bans Medicaid users from coverage with a healthcare provider that also provides abortion services. In this week's ruling, the judge said patients are likely to suffer adverse health consequences where care is either disrupted or unavailable. Planned Parenthood claims that it was singled out in the legislation by the Trump administration. I'm Clayton Neville.
The top stories of the day are brought to you by Sleep Number. Smarter sleep is life-changing. Save up to $800 on select Sleep Number smart beds. Limited time only at Sleep Number. Trump's line in the sand with Russia. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning, and there are about 24 states today under heat advisories. with heat indices of up to 104 expected. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Brian Thompson.
The stifling heat will continue as we head through today. High temperatures will be in the 90s for much of the nation east of the Rockies. Some of the worst of the heat will be along the Mississippi Valley from southern parts of Iowa through St. Louis down to Memphis and down through New Orleans as well. And then all along much of the Gulf Coast, real field temperatures could top 110 degrees over toward Jacksonville and Tampa, where air temperatures won't be too far from 100 this afternoon. And we're expecting the heat and humidity all the way up the East Coast. High temperatures well into the 90s toward D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, up to Boston, even into parts of Maine. Highs will be near 90 this afternoon. Not much in the way of rain in the East Coast today, especially in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. Very spotty thunderstorms, parts of Virginia, and then some heavier storms in southern parts of Georgia, Alabama, into the Florida Panhandle, even over toward the Jacksonville area with that high heat. So we could have some thunderstorms popping up during the afternoon. In the Great Lakes, could be a couple of showers and thunderstorms popping up. A lot of the day, though, will be dry. The main concern for severe weather today will be across the Plain States and back into parts of Montana and northeastern Wyoming, over through South Dakota, Nebraska, and into Iowa. That's where we're going to be most on guard for hail, flooding, and isolated tornadoes. Some heavy storms into parts of Colorado, New Mexico, eastern Arizona, but mainly dry along the West Coast today. And that's the weather across America. In Washington, D.C. today, mostly sunny, hot and humid, a high of 98. In Albuquerque today, partly sunny with a heavy afternoon thunderstorm in spots, high 83. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Brian Thompson.
You can follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Simply search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. President Trump has set a new deadline for Russia to agree on ending the war in Ukraine. Correspondent Sagar Meghani reports.
2 weeks ago in the Oval Office,
we're going to be doing very severe tariffs if we don't have a deal in 50 days.
But today in Scotland,
I'm going to make a new deadline of about 10 or 12 days from today.
The president says there's no reason to wait.
We just don't see any progress being made.
And he's not interested in talking anymore with Vladimir Putin, expressing skepticism that Russia's willing to reach a deal to stop the fighting.
I really felt it was going to end, but every time I think it's going to end, he kills people.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Manhunt underway after a couple in Arkansas were killed while out hiking with their 2 young daughters. Correspondent Jennifer King reports police are asking the public for potential leads.
Arkansas State Police identified Clinton David Brink and his wife Kristen Amanda Brink as the couple who were found dead Saturday on a trail at Devil's Den State Park in a double homicide. Their 2 daughters, ages 7 and 9, were not hurt. Investigators are looking for a suspect described as a white male who was seen driving towards a park exit in a black 4-door sedan with a license plate partly covered by tape. He was last seen wearing dark shorts, a dark ball cap, sunglasses, and fingerless gloves. The car may have been traveling on Arkansas State Highway 170 or State Highway 220 near the park. Rangers have stepped up patrols, and police are asking the public to review any videos or photos from the park area south of Fayetteville. I'm Jennifer King.
In sports, Ryan Sandberg, a Hall of Fame second baseman who became one of baseball's best all-around players while starring for the Chicago Cubs, has passed away after a battle with cancer. According to the Cubs organization, Sandberg was surrounded by his family when he died. He was 65. Time for Tuesday Business. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street opens this morning after a mixed day for stocks yesterday, but the S&P 500 index and the Nasdaq each open at record highs. The S&P 500 added only 1 point yesterday, but that counts. It is a big week for the markets. That may be what kind of held investors back yesterday. Not much of a bounce at all for stocks off of the EU trade deal announced by President Trump.
We're seeing a pretty tepid response from Wall Street, despite getting some relief on the tariff front. Those new EU rates came in at 15%, well below the 30, so I guess that's better news. It's interesting, though, because the 15% really mirrors the Japan framework from just last week. But here's the thing. When you're trading at record highs, good news doesn't always move the needle. Investors right now seem to be in a wait-and-see mode, especially with this monster week.
CNBC CNBC's Christina Partsinevelos. The Monster Week is because the Fed starts a 2-day meeting on interest rates today. We get more big tech earnings reports, and by Friday, the June jobs report will be out. Some investors are very optimistic.
JP Morgan's trading desk has a note out pointing to the fact that the S&P has rallied more than 25% over the past 75 days. That is the largest 75-day rally since the rebound from the COVID lows. Forward-looking returns after a rally like this are quite strong. A year later, the index was higher every single time.
CNBC's Scott Wapner. Wine and spirits makers don't have a lot to be happy about yet in that new trade deal between the U.S. and the European Union. France's winemakers are very worried.
European wine and spirits makers treading carefully. No decision regarding a wine and spirits carve-out. 15% tariffs are still a big hit. Wine trade group CEEV said the previous 10% blanket tariff on EU imports led to a 12% decline for wine producers. Leading winemakers may have to increase prices or eject from the U.S. market overall.
CNBC's Brandon Gomez. The U.S. and China have started up trade talks again in Switzerland. Spirit Airlines is laying off 270 pilots and demoting more than 100 others as it prepares to cut flights. Cutting capacity or the number of seats available to buy will help the airline raise prices for the seats it does have. It's happening across the airline industry as travel demand wanes. On today's watch list, aside from the Fed meeting on interest rates, earnings are coming from Boeing, Merck, Procter & Gamble, UPS, JetBlue, United Health, Royal Caribbean, and Starbucks, and that's just to name a few. We get the latest on home prices from S&P Case Shiller. We get a new read on consumer confidence, and it's National Chicken Wing Day. Look for deals and discounts at your favorite chains.
CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. As the war in Gaza approaches its 22nd month, correspondent Charles de Ledesma reports the UN is holding a meeting to discuss a two-state solution between Palestinians and Israel.
The UN General Assembly is bringing high-level officials together this week to promote a two-state solution to the decades-old Israel-Palestinian conflict that would place their people side by side, living in peace in independent nations. Israel and its close ally, the US, are boycotting the meeting, which will be co-chaired by the foreign ministers of France and Saudi Arabia. Israel's right-wing government opposes it completely, and Washington has called the meeting counterproductive to its efforts to end the war in Gaza. France and Saudi Arabia want the meeting to put a spotlight on the two-state solution, which they view as the only viable road to peace. The meeting was postponed from late June amid surging tensions in the Middle East. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
The parents of a deceased man are suing the funeral home that handled his body after making a gruesome discovery. Correspondent Hempen has the story.
2 funeral homes allegedly gave grieving parents their deceased son's brain in a box. The parents, Lawrence and Abby Butler, discovered the issue after picking up their son, Timothy Garlington's belongings from a Pennsylvania funeral home. After Garlington's death in 2023, the Butlers had his remains shipped from one funeral home in Georgia to another in Pennsylvania. Their attorney said that the box was unlabeled and began leaking fluid several days later. The Butlers were told by the Georgia funeral home that it was a mistake. The lawsuit claims negligence and emotional distress. I'm Hempen.
A player from the Cleveland Guardians baseball team has been placed on leave as part of a sports gambling probe. Correspondent Gethin Coolbaugh reports this is the second player on that team to be caught up in the investigation.
Cleveland Guardians closer Emmanuel Clase has been placed on non-disciplinary paid leave as part of a Major League Baseball investigation into sports betting. The 27-year-old and 3-time All-Star becomes the second Guardians pitcher to be placed on leave in connection with a sports gambling probe. Luis Ortiz is also on non-disciplinary leave through August 31st. It was unclear if the cases were related in any way. The Guardians said in a statement that they, quote, have been informed that no additional players or club personnel are expected to be impacted. I'm Gethin Coolbaugh.
A famous American musician is among the first people to be the beneficiary of a new law recently enacted in the African country Benin. Correspondent Julie Walker has details.
Singer Sierra, known for hits like 1-2 Step. And we will rock. is one of the first public figures to become a citizen of Benin under a recent law by the small West African country granting citizenship to descendants of slaves.
I feel incredibly proud to also be a part of the importance of this moment and what it means. The significance of this moment is so special, so powerful.
She posted the weekend ceremony to her Instagram. It's part of a broader initiative by Benin to attract the Black diaspora, acknowledge the country's role in the transatlantic slave trade, and promote tourism focused on slavery-related sites of remembrance. I'm Julie Walker.
Today is the birthday of the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. President Eisenhower signed an act into law creating the organization. The year, 1958. America in the Morning for Tuesday, July 29th, 2025 is produced by Alexander Hinton. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
At least 3 dead and a motive under investigation in a shooting outside a Nevada casino. I'm Clayton Neville.
A federal judge says Planned Parenthood clinics must continue to receive reimbursements for Medicaid services. I'm Jennifer King.
The Coast Guard is investigating a boat collision in Florida that has left 2 people dead. I'm Mike Hempen.
Cyber attack exposes 1.4 million users. I'm tech correspondent Chuck Palm.
University of Colorado football coach Deion Sanders says he had bladder cancer. I'm Ed Donahue.
What were some of the big announcements out of Comic-Con this year? I'm Kevin Carr.
Back after these messages. You're with America in the Morning. Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. Officials in New York are investigating a shooting that took place last night that left at least 5 people dead, including an off-duty policeman. The gunman stormed into a Midtown Manhattan office building. John Stolnis picks up the story.
5 innocent people shot tonight. We lost 4 souls to another senseless act of gun violence.
Mayor Eric Adams making the sober announcement following the shooting. One of those killed, 36-year-old NYPD officer Didarul Islam.
He served in the 47th precinct and a 3.5-year veteran of the department. He was doing what he does best, and all members of the police department carry out. He was saving lives. He was protecting New Yorkers.
New York Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch identified who they believe to be the shooter.
Shane Tamora, a 27-year-old male with a Las Vegas address. The vehicle he exited is registered in Nevada to Mr. Tamora. Inside of that vehicle, officers found a rifle case with rounds, a loaded revolver, ammunition, and magazines, a backpack, and medication prescribed to Mr. Tamora.
Tisch said Tamora traveled across the country over the last few days and only arrived in the city this evening. She says they are working on a potential motive for the shootings. Surveillance video shows a man getting out of a double-parked BMW with an M4 rifle walking toward the building. Witnesses say he shot Officer Islam as he entered the building, shot a woman as she tried to take cover, then began spraying the lobby with bullets before killing himself. Many of the city's top financial firms, as well as the NFL's headquarters, are housed there.
According to our law enforcement partners in Las Vegas, Mr. Tamora has a documented mental health history.
The building is located in Midtown Manhattan, a short walk from Grand Central Terminal and a block east of St. Patrick's Cathedral. I'm John Stolnis.
3 people were killed in a shooting outside a casino in Reno, Nevada. Correspondent Clayton Neville has details.
The shooting happened before 7:30 Monday morning in the valet area of the Grand Sierra Resort and Casino. Reno Police Chief Catherine Nance.
The bravery and rapid response by our officers stopped the suspect's rampage on innocent victims, which definitely saved lives and prevented additional people from being victimized.
A motive in the shooting still under investigation, and it's not believed any of the victims were targeted.
In total, 6 victims were shot. 3 of them are now deceased. 2 remain in critical condition, and 1 was released.
Sparks Police Chief Chris Crawford says the suspect walked to the valet area before opening fire.
Once at valet, the suspect produced a handgun and pointed it at a group of victims. The suspect's firearm malfunctioned. However, he was able to make it operable. Once operable, the suspect fired multiple times at the group of victims at valet. In total, 5 people in the valet area sustained gunshot wounds, and 1 victim was pronounced deceased on scene. 4 other victims were transported to a local area hospital.
The shooter had multiple magazines with him and ran from the valet area before being shot by security.
The suspect opened fire on the security guard. The security officer returned fire at the suspect. The suspect then continued fleeing north through the parking lot. Another victim was driving through the parking lot, and the suspect opened fire on this person, striking the victim. That victim was pronounced deceased on the scene.
The quick response by security and police being praised and credited for saving lives. Tourists at the casino and resort shaken up, though. A motive in the shooting now under investigation. I'm Clayton Neville.
A judge in Massachusetts blocks federal Planned Parenthood funding cuts for now. Correspondent Jennifer King reports.
The ruling from U.S. District Judge Indira Talwani in Boston replaces an earlier injunction. In her Monday ruling, Talwani wrote that patients are likely to suffer adverse health consequences where care is disrupted or unavailable, saying it threatens an increase in unintended pregnancies, attendant complications, and sexually transmitted diseases going undiagnosed and untreated. Planned Parenthood is not specifically named in President Trump's tax bill, but the organization is fighting it in court. The bill instructed the government to end Medicaid payments for 1 year to abortion providers that received more than $800,000 from Medicaid in 2023. Nearly half of Planned Parenthood's patients depend on Medicaid. They argue it would be at risk of closing nearly 200 clinics in 24 states, with more than 1 million patients losing care. I'm Jennifer King.
President Trump is losing patience with Russian President Vladimir Putin over the war in Ukraine, forcing Trump to move up the deadline for Russia ending the bloodshed. Correspondent Bob Brown reports.
During his visit to the UK Monday with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, President Trump sounding more angry over continued Russian missile and drone attacks on Ukraine. The president said he would shorten the 50-day window offered to President Putin to agree to a ceasefire or face economic sanctions.
So what I'm doing is we're going to do secondary sanctions unless we make a deal. And we might make a deal. I don't know. You don't know. It's we've done so many peace deals. This is the one I started out with. And, I know President Putin called me. He wanted to know if I could help him with Iran. I said, no, I don't need your help with Iran. I need your help with Russia.
The president says the weekly death toll between Ukrainian and Russian soldiers continues to climb.
But 5,000 Russian and Ukrainian kids a week are dying. And that's not mentioning the people that are dying also in towns where, he's lobbing missiles into certain towns like Kiev. He's got to make a deal. It's too many people are dying. It's a really bloody war. And the 5 is now, they're really telling me that number is obsolete. It's like 7.
That's terrible.
So you have 7,000 Russian and Ukrainian soldiers dying every single week.
President Trump's comments coming shortly after Polish and allied NATO aircraft responded to a Russian drone and missile attack on Ukraine Sunday night. I'm Bob Brown.
Senate Democrats are seeking access to transcripts of last week's meetings between the DOJ officials and Ghislaine Maxwell. Correspondent Sagar Meghani reports the request comes as there's mounting scrutiny in what's known in the Jeffrey Epstein case.
Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche met twice with Ghislaine Maxwell in Florida, where she's in prison for helping Epstein's sex trafficking network. Top Senate Judiciary Committee Democrat Dick Durbin and Rhode Island Sheldon Whitehouse say the interviews are another tactic to distract from the administration's failed promise to unveil the full Epstein files. They also want the department to pledge it will not offer Maxwell a pardon for taking part in the meetings. Asked about a potential pardon Friday,
it's something I haven't thought about.
This morning, the president was asked if he's ruling one out.
Well, I'm allowed to give her a pardon, but nobody's approached me with it. Nobody's asked me about it.
And says for now it's inappropriate to talk about pardons. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
At least 2 children are dead after a barge collided with a sailboat in Florida. Correspondent Mike Hempen reports the smaller vessel was part of a sailing camp.
Authorities say 2 kids died and 2 others are in critical condition after a barge apparently hit their boat, sending them overboard. The Coast Guard says all 6 people on the sailing boat were pulled from the water by responders. 4 kids were rushed to a hospital, with 2 pronounced dead on arrival. The Miami Yacht Club says the people on the sailing boat, an adult and 5 children, were in their final week of a sailing camp for kids 7 to 15 years old. A spokeswoman for the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission says the collision occurred near Star Island, which is between Miami Beach and Miami in Biscayne Bay. I'm Mike Hempen.
High-level tariff talks are underway in Stockholm between the U.S. and China. Correspondent Jamie Keaton reports on what's on the table.
The talks aimed to help reduce the tariff levels set by the Trump administration earlier this year and Chinese retaliatory measures. Analysts expect an extension of the 90-day pause in the highest tariff levels in anticipation of a meeting later this fall between U.S. President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping. The tariffs have come down from peak levels earlier this year that roiled world markets and now stand at about 30% U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods and 10% tariffs on U.S. goods exported to China. The United States is eager to bring down its massive trade deficit with China, which stood at nearly $300 billion last year, and encourage more domestic consumption in China, particularly for U.S. goods. China wants to see a reduction in the highest tariff levels because of the importance of its manufacturing base and its export-led economy.
ISIS-backed rebels attack a Catholic church in eastern Congo. Correspondent Charles de Ledesma reports dozens of people were killed.
Nearly 40 people were killed in eastern Congo's Ituri province when rebels stormed a Catholic church during a vigil and opened fire on worshippers, including many women and children. Farhan Haq, a senior UN official, says the ADF, a group established in the 1990s during tensions in neighboring Uganda, was responsible.
The peacekeeping mission in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, MONUSCO, strongly condemns the resurgence of violence in the Ituri province, which has resulted in the deaths of dozens of civilians. The mission is especially concerned by the repeated and deadly attacks carried out by the ADF, the Allied Democratic Forces, which have claimed the lives of 82 civilians in the provinces of Ituri and North Kivu.
Another 5 people were killed in a nearby village. The victims in all included 19 women, 14 women and 9 children. The ADF pledged allegiance in 2019 to the Islamic State and sought to establish an Islamic caliphate. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
Cybersecurity experts are warning about a massive data breach at Allianz Insurance, where they believe customer personal and financial data may have been exposed. Correspondent Chuck Palm has the story in today's Tech Report.
Allianz Life Insurance Company of North America got slammed by a major cyber attack last week, with the hackers gaining access to a majority of its 1.4 million U.S. customers. Allianz reported that on July 16th, a malicious threat actor used social engineering by posing as IT support to breach a third-party cloud-based CRM system. The hackers absconded with personally identifiable info like names and financial details from the customers and even some Allianz Life employees. By posing as an employee or a trusted IT professional, hackers are gaining access to systems more readily by sending friendly emails, requesting remote access, or simply asking the end user for their login ID and password. Cybersecurity professionals at Google and third-party organizations are confirming that this method is easier than a brute force attack and is the preferred method used by notorious hacker groups like Scattered Spider. For more, find me at chuckpalm.com.
Tuesday Sports on America in the Morning. Here's our Robert Workman.
Baseball Monday, the Brewers rallied past the Cubs 8-4, taking sole possession of first place in the NL Central and the best record in the majors. Christian Yelich put it on ice with a big fly.
We weren't really trying to get it all back at once. It was just kind of chip away, make it a game, get back in it, and see what happens. But to credit to the guys for just staying after it. We got down early, but still the top of the first inning. There's a lot of game left, and we just battled.
Padres turned back the Mets 7-6. That ends New York's 7-game winning streak. Elias Diaz singled in the go-ahead run to cap a 5 5-run fifth, then came through again after the Mets had tied it in the top of the ninth. He gave San Diego the walk-off win. Twins snagged the Red Sox 5-4 on Brooks Lee's 2-run knock in the bottom of the ninth. Andrew McCutcheon's tie-breaking tater in the seventh lifted the Pirates over the Giants 6-5. Riley Adams went deep in the seventh to give the Nationals a 2-1 win over the Astros. Houston has dropped 5 straight, all at home. Braves used 3 homers and 14 walks to defeat the Royals 10-7 and snap a 5-game skid. Mariners beat the A's 3-1, Josh Naylor with his first dinger for Seattle. Orioles wrapped out 16 hits, 4 of them homers as they trounced the Blue Jays 11-4. White Sox whipped the Phillies, Cardinals reeled in the Marlins, Tigers topped the Diamondbacks, Angels overpowered the Rangers, Dodgers down the Reds, Rays dropped the Yankees, and the Rockies scored 4 times in the ninth to upend the Guardians 8-6. Cleveland was without its closer Emmanuel Clase, who was put on non-disciplinary leave before the game as part of MLB's betting investigation. Hall of Famer Ryan Sandberg passed away Monday after a nearly 2-year battle with cancer. The 20th round draft pick of the Phillies was a throw-in in a trade with the Cubs, where he went on to make 10 All-Star teams, grab 9 Gold Gloves, and lead Chicago to a couple of NL East titles and earning MVP honors in 1984. Ryan Sandberg, inducted into Cooperstown 20 years ago this week, was 65 years old. The MLB trading deadline is Thursday afternoon. Yesterday, the Tigers picked up right-handed starter Chris Paddock from the Twins, and the Brewers got catcher Danny Jansen from the Rays. That's Tuesday Sports.
Former NFL player turned college coach Deion Sanders held a news conference to address some recent medical issues he's been facing. Correspondent Ed Donahue has details.
University of Colorado football coach Deion Sanders says he had bladder cancer, but plans to coach this season. Oncologist Dr. Janet Kukreja said the cancer was aggressive. Sanders' bladder was removed.
And I am pleased to report that the results from the surgery are that he is cured from the cancer.
I'm truly thankful that God is so good.
Wearing a cowboy hat, overalls, and sunglasses, Coach Sanders says it was dynamic, tough. It wasn't a cakewalk. He plans to coach the Buffaloes this fall.
Slowly but surely, I built myself back up to where I'm able, I'm strong, I'm ready.
Audio from KMGH. Sanders turns 58 next month, and he's facing new challenges, most notably.
I can't pee like I used to pee. It's totally different. I depend on depend. You know, if you know what I mean.
Deion Sanders is not ashamed of it. He said, let's deal with it head on. I'm Ed Donahue.
Entertainment correspondent Kevin Carr reveals some of the major announcements from this year's San Diego Comic-Con.
Here are some of the biggest things that came out of this year's San Diego Comic-Con. Warner Brothers released a new trailer for Peacemaker Season 2, which takes advantage of the Pocket Universe introduced in Superman a couple weeks ago.
Whoa.
What is it?
They have a dimensional portal, and it leads to a parallel world.
What?
It's not that big a deal.
Get the
AMC showed up for genre shows, dropping a new trailer for The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon, as he moves through Europe with Carol.
We gotta kill the next king of Spain.
Start living again.
Let's keep doing that. Let's keep never giving up.
The network also teased the new season of Interview with the Vampire, featuring Sam Reed as the vampire Lestat playing a literal rock star. And Paramount dropped a trailer for its upcoming series, Star Trek Starfleet Academy.
It is my great honor to welcome you all to Starfleet Academy.
20th Century Studios offered Predator news, from Hulu's animated Predator Killer of Killers getting an extended cut to the studio possibly reviving the Alien vs. Predator line. Other announcements included Crunchyroll dropping new anime in theaters every third Monday of the month, Keith David's POTUS from Rick and Morty getting his own spin-off, and the Callous Warner Brothers write-off Coyote vs. Acme finally getting released next summer. I'm Kevin Carr.
America in the Morning for Tuesday, July 29th, 2025 is produced by Alexander Hinton. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.